Thank you, Johna. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, it's nice to meet you, Shane. And you said my name right.
Yeah, my wife has an aunt named Johna as well, spelled the exact same way. So I've name I'm used to.
Oh man, I have to meet her now. We have to be best friends. All right, so let's get started here. Everyone, I am with Director Shane Dax Taylor, director of the new movie Murder Company coming out on July 5th. Shane, thanks for sitting down and talking with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, of
Thank you.
course, of course, of course. How excited are you that the movie's going to be out soon?
Oh, I'm so excited. With a war film like this, there was only, Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July. I'm very happy that they chose July 5th for this film to come out and, nice long weekend and, it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, for those listening or watching, it stars Kelsey Grammer, Pooch Hall, Jill Marini, just and a slew of other people. Like the cast list is just enormous. So what was it like to kind of be on set and directing like all of these great actors? Like, how was that? Was it fun? Was it stressful? How was that?
That's a great question. Fortunately, I've known Pooch Hall and Jalone Vanover. I've known these guys for 20, 25 years. So we've been looking to work together for quite some time. And other than Kelsey Grammer, I had a big say who was already on board when I came on. The other actors, I had a huge say in bringing them all together. And it was fantastic. Some sets you can't wait to get through the day, but at the end of the day, this is really my first one where we all like, okay, we finish the day, then we'd all go have dinner together. And whether you're, an American or a German, it was just like we didn't separate anybody, so we brought them all together, and we'd go have dinner together and talk. And on off days, we wanted to be together. We'd go hiking, or we'd work out, or we'd do whatever, or go have drinks. I was quite fortunate at this because we were all in Sofia, Bulgaria together, and not knowing others, it really brought us closer together. And I think it made the cast a lot closer, especially too, because I've known several of these guys for many, many years.
That's, I mean, you could just kind of tell how tight everyone seems to be like in the movie. I mean, even with, Pooch Hall's character being the only person of color character, like you could still feel like the tight knit of like the group and like even not even just between the characters, but the actors themselves. So that was really good. And it's good to know that you guys all kind of bonded while you were all out there. Um, so what was it like? I mean, I'm not a big outside person, okay?
Uh-huh.
The fact that it's hot inside the building that I'm in right now is just killing me. So what
Yeah.
was it like to be out there, like in like all of the trees and you're just like you're shooting and you're blowing things up? Like, what was that like?
Oh, it was wild. And fortunately, we were at the top of a ski, like a lot of those places we shot were at the top of a ski mountain, and it was fortunately not summer. So it was nice and cool, but these guys were in heavy outfits, or the uniforms were quite heavy and comforting. So that made it, that was great for these actors, just come together. A lot of sets you go to, you have your trailers and people just run to their trailers too. But these guys would at lunchtime, like we're sitting together, and breaks they're sitting together, and just telling stories. And Pooch is one of my closest friends in the world, so it was awesome to, we've talked about it, like I said, for 20, 25 years, like let's work together. And it was this film that he was the first one, after Kelsey, that came on board, because I knew it just had to be him. He's a fantastic actor, and a tough guy, and he really brought it. And I'm excited, first of many. We've talked about it, but now we've actually done it. Now we're ready to jump into our next one together.
Yeah, you're like, okay, we did one, now we got to get the ball rolling.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, Pooch's character just took so many hits in the movie. I mean, just every time something happened to him, I was like, please don't kill him. I
Yeah.
just don't want his character to die.
That was one of the things. He came over. He's like, "You're just not," because when I sent him, I said, "Look, you don't get to say no. You're coming with me. You're coming over here." And he's like, "Well, I'm not going to be the guy who dies first to him." I was like, "I'm going to put you through the ringer, buddy." But I don't want to give too much away, but he's there to the very end, and he's, I think he went through the ringer more than anybody on the set, it felt like.
Yeah, because I there was one part where I'm not gonna spoil it, but there was one part before the very like final scene, there was one part and I was like, did they just kill him? Because he just fell to the ground. I was like, is he dead? And I was
Mhm.
like on the verge of tears because I was like, why would they kill Pooch like that? I can't
I
deal with it,
know.
So
Yeah, no,
yeah,
he was one like the part you're talking about. There was another actor I think it was initially written for, and Pooch was like, no, no, no. That's if I'm going to go out, if that has to be the way, then that's a cool, that's a cool stunt, and it
yeah.
would be a cool death, So
It was real stressful for me watching it. So, before the movie starts, there's the little blurb about the murder company and, all of that stuff. What made you want to actually tell the story of these men together?
This is such a huge story. I come from a military family. I've got this magazine. So this was in like Time magazine originally. This is my grandfather here. So, he was General Patton's aide, and we owned General Patton's gun. This was on Time magazine. This was recently. It's been in a lot of magazines. This pictures I've seen it my whole life. So it's always kind of been in the back of my head that I would do a World War II film. And when this one came about, it's, people like my grandfather and others that landed on Normandy, they would not have been able to get off the beaches if they didn't take out this high-ranking Nazi general who controlled the roadways. Because you think you land on the beach, but how are you going to get the tanks? How are you going to get, tanks, jeeps, everything off if they destroy a bridge? Like there's no, you'd have to go around, 50 miles in some stretches or try to find, build a new one where it was important that these guys took out this Nazi general who was actively going around and destroying bridges and roads. So that's why, it's always been in the back of my head to direct a World War II film. And this was it just felt right once it was offered to me.
That just You and I talked to Gilles Marini a couple of days ago, and he was giving me the whole backstory on his family and like the war and all of that stuff. And so it just seems like, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of like kismet, where it's just like, you're like, I've always wanted to do this, and then this comes about, and then like like all of that stuff. It seems like the perfect mesh of just people and circumstances to come together to make this, amazing film. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, it was wild because everybody had like, Gilles and Jalone and all these guys. They just had their own, these were the boots that my grandfather wore. Or this was this. It was important that they had, the patches that Joe Anderson, these guys had. Like these were real patches that belonged to their grandfathers, or family members that fought in the war. So it really, everybody kind of came on, I think initially for Jesse's script, but then it became a family, and one that's, some sets I've been on, I'm sure you've talked to people like you can't wait to get off, or you can't wait to get certain actors off offset. And but this one is like, oh man, the day's over, like,
Mhm.
or the shoot's over. We're like, what can we do? How do we do a sequel? Some of these people, didn't make it, but maybe we do a prequel. I don't know, but we just had so much fun together.
Yeah, I mean, you could always do like a little reunion or something like that, with all the characters who make it out. And that leads into my next question was, since it is based on a true story, do you know if any of like the actors who, in that final scene, do they make it out of the war? Do you know that?
From what I've told from Jesse, so Jesse, who did the writer, did all the research and studied these guys and heard all these stories, and I mean, really kind of nailed it. From what I understand, yes. I mean, they're not still around, but at the time they did, and there's this bittersweet end when one of the guys goes a separate way, and you think of, it's kind of, it's sad. It's like you just kind of, okay, the war is just starting. It's
Yeah.
we did this one thing, but now that we've got, now that we can get these guys on the beaches, now we've really got to come in. So it was, the coming and going of these guys, and there's several of these actors that don't make it, that start and then don't make it to the end. Um, but it was a family. This only took place within a week, but it felt like they'd been together for months. the time it took.
Man, I couldn't imagine. I mean, I just, applaud, the people who can do something like that. That's just it's just so amazing because you're like, no, like I'm doing this because I got family and I've got all of these people that I love and I want to keep everyone safe. So that's I don't know. I'm trying not to get emotional over here.
Yeah, no, it was important too to me because when I got it, it was a straight just war film, and like these guys, you didn't know anything about them. And my main thing is that okay, I'll come on board, but I wanted to bring on, you know, I wanted to give them past, I wanted to give them families, I wanted them to talk about their kids, I wanted them, and a lot of those stories, I talked to the actors and said, look, when my grandfather was there, then when he was fighting, then he had two kids. So I wanted to give them, or my wife was expecting, I'm going to meet my, what became, their parents for the first time. I mean, real parents. So we did add, that was not, you know, based on the real actors. This was more based on I mean, the real characters is based on the actors who were playing these characters about like, this is what my grandfather went through. He had my dad at home and my mom or my uncle. So it was important to, bring these actors and it made them feel that much closer to these characters because it was in a sense based on their own, family's experiences.
Gosh, it was such an emotional movie. And for anyone who goes to see it or, just if anyone who sees it, everyone should go see it. It's a very good, very fantastic movie. Bring tissues because you absolutely will cry. I cried a few times at a couple of characters who died because it was just so like when you go into like a war movie, like people are gonna die, right? But like when you have that core group, you're like, oh, they're all main characters. Like they can't die, right?
Yeah.
Like that can't happen. And then it's just like this person, this person, this person. I was like, wait, no, they're main characters. They can't die. What are we doing?
Yeah, it was important to me too. Like added that it's like when someone dies, it's that much more important to this group. It's not
Mhm.
like let's just take the dog tags and let's
Yeah,
go on. It was no, they each had their own like own burial in a sense that it was important to each of these guys to like mourn that because they had become a family, and you would expect the same thing to heaven forbid when your time comes that someone's there if you're at war to give as much care to you and your body and get back to your loved ones, everything. So yeah, I wanted that was important to me for sure.
yeah. It was everything in this movie was executed perfectly. I loved it, all of the effects, and I mean, even though some of it's heartbreaking, it's also kind of funny. Like there were a few parts in there where I was like, did they say that? I was like, am I supposed to laugh? And I was like, I'm gonna laugh anyway because I feel like it's supposed to be funny.
Yeah, we tried to add humor where we could because it was just in Niles, one of his character, the medic, it was like this naive character, and
Mhm.
they all kind of rag each other like brothers do, or squadrons do, and it's just you can't just be serious to serious to serious. You have to lighten it up in these moments of, we're in serious times, but we still have to bring a sense of humor to it.
Yeah, it definitely made me laugh. It made me cry. It's the whole roller coaster of emotions that you go through when you watch a movie that's based on a true story, because then you think, wow, these were real people and they really did this thing that we don't see as like maybe like a really big thing, but then once you actually see the story, because we don't know the behind the scenes of like storming the beaches and all of that stuff. So like now people know like we could do that because of these particular people and the sacrifices that they made. So it's very important for history, and I know it's important for you and the rest of the cast because you all have some type of personal connection to it. So I just want to say thank you for making this film because I know it's going to touch a lot more people like who have, like I have such a weird like thing with like World War II and like stuff like that. So like if there's documentaries and stuff, like I'll just sit and watch them. And so it's a really important part of history that nobody knew about and now people will know. So I want to say
Mhm.
thank you for telling that story because it's very important to history.
Thank you, Johna. I mean, I appreciate all the support because, the whole thing is just get the word out and let people
Yeah.
know that it's out and or soon to come out
Mhm.
and just go support it. And this is the times we live in. It's important that like this is pro America. Like we all can no matter what political side you're on, come together. Like we
Yeah.
have at that moment we had one enemy.
Yeah.
And I think it's important, and what better time than 4th of July weekend and Independence Day to see a film like this.
Absolutely. Shane, it was just so awesome talking to you. I can't wait for the movie to come out in theaters. It'll be out July 5th for anybody who wants to go see it. Take your family to see it for 4th of July. Mostly like your dad's most likely because most dads will
Mhm.
probably want to see this movie or
Yeah,
your grandparents.
exactly.
Yeah, but Shane, thank you so much for making this movie and for taking the time today to talk with me. And I look forward to talking with you about whatever amazing project you have coming up next.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate it. Have a
Of
great day.
course. You too. Thank you.